What's going on, everyone? Welcome back along to the Super Rugby preview show. I have one massive show planned for you all today. Not one, not two, but three special guests. And to top all that, it is quarterfinal time. It is when the real season gets underway. So we have lots to talk about, lots to look at, big matches to have a little bit of a review of, and lots to get through. So I really hope you guys enjoy this week's preview of the Super Rugby quarterfinals. It's been a massive project, as you can probably imagine, to bring all these people together, all these recordings. Editing is a lot of work when there's this many people involved. So probably one of the biggest projects I've undertaken so far for this preview show. So I hope you guys really do enjoy it. If you do and you want to see more, leave a like down below, and of course have your thoughts on what you think about the video. You can share it with your friends who like rugby out there as well. I want to see a bit of insight into this weekend's quarterfinals and hopefully semi-finals and finals as well in the coming weeks. But yeah, hope you guys really enjoy it. It's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun as well having these guys on the channel. So let's not mess around, let's get straight into it and meet our three guests who will be featuring on this week's episode. Hopefully we'll have these three guys back every single week of the finals leading up to the big one. So quarterfinals this week, semi-finals next week, and then we'll have the big one, the grand final. We will hopefully be having all these guys have their say. So who are they? Let's take a look and meet the guys now. So first up on the list of guests for this big quarterfinal show, we have a returnee from last week's preview show. It is Brett Hartley making another appearance on the channel. Thank you for coming along. I hope you're still well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for sitting in your cold room to do this preview.
I'm trying to be amped and excited so I can warm up. That's my plan. That's the plan. And it's semi-final, it's quarterfinal time. So I've got to be excited because it's Super Rugby getting down to business end of the season. So how this is going to work, we have guests about these matches. We're going to be talking about who they think is going to win, why they think they're going to win, anything else they want to throw into the mix about these big quarterfinal matches. And coming in second to the discussion, we have finally making a long awaited reappearance on the channel. It is the Scottish Cannon. Lots to say, I'd imagine. Welcome back. How you going?
Good, mate. Thanks for being on. Thanks for me being on your channel again. Been a while since that Waratahs rant.
Yeah, saving more up for that, I guess, another day with the Waratahs out of the competition. So your team's gone, but you do have still one representative left in the competition from Australia. So the Brumbies will be where everyone over there is pinning their hopes on something happening. And as we were just talking about as well, there is possibly a slight little slimmer of hope for the Brumbies in this year's competition. Okay, and third, but certainly not least, Ed. He is my southernmost guest as well on today's little preview show. It is Paul, the man behind the driving maul, back on the channel again with his very, very tight predictions that you all love to give him heaps about. Welcome back to the channel. How you going?
Doing great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
That's no worries whatsoever. We welcome your views and your nice close picks as well. People seem to love them. So we're going to be having a look at the quarterfinals.
No, close picks.
Close picks. Close picks. I'm expecting nothing here to be over 10 points, by the way.
How can you have me down as the most southern person? Really? I'm in Auckland.
Yes.
I'm North New Zealand. You've got foreigners on your channel? Oh no.
I have. You're the southernmost guest on the channel. How's that? Don't you feel unique? Don't you feel special about being southern?
You're below me. You're way south.
I'm not a guest though. I'm the host. The host of the most.
Yeah.
So we're talking about quarterfinals. It's all right. It's all good. It's all about entertainment. That's what we're here for. And we're here to entertain about the quarterfinals. So let's get started here. First game of the weekend. Quarterfinal number 1. And it's in Australia. The weakest place of them all. They're playing the Hurricanes. A lot to talk about this one. We've got return of Christian Lealiifano to the Brumbies, which is pretty big. Who's your winner? Have you got any reasons for each side? Hurricanes obviously on a big form high. Can they go over and do the job against the Brumbies?
Yeah, I think in terms of the 4 quarterfinals this week, I reckon this is probably the most mismatched one in terms of both wins and just overall form of the teams. Hurricanes coming off an absolute high last week, beating then undefeated Crusaders, which was a really good game in that round. The Crusaders their players are crazy. The players they've collected over the last few years. I think especially the 2 sets of brothers will be a very big problem for the Brumbies, being the Savia brothers and the Barrett brothers, obviously. Geordie Barrett slotting in at 13 this week will be quite interesting, obviously making room for Naheem Milner-Skudder coming, wearing the number 15 jersey. Obviously, both of those guys bring mass amounts of attack to the table, so it'll be really interesting seeing those guys clicking. Obviously, like you said, great story seeing Christian Lealiifano come back after being diagnosed with leukemia probably about this time last year, I would say. So really good to see him back. He'll provide a big emotional support for the Brumbies, and they probably need everything they can get. There might be, and obviously Dane Cole's coming back as well. He's on the bench, so having, in my opinion, the best hooker in the world on your bench is a pretty good thing to have in terms of impact. And this one has potential for an upset should the Brumbies decide to play some good rugby on the day. But I've got Hurricanes by 25.
Of course, we've got the 4 quarterfinals to talk about, so we're going to get stuck into those. It is your Brumbies who are up first, although they're not really your team. But from Australia, they're up against the Hurricanes. Second. Yeah, we'll give them that. Do you give them any chance?
Well, anything can happen in the cold of Canberra, can't it? It's quite hard to predict against the Hurricanes if they obviously win against the Crusaders last weekend and the 25-0 record of Kiwi teams over the Aussie teams this year. But who knows? Stephen Larkin might have something up his sleeve, and the -5 in Canberra might get under the skin of the Hurricanes.
-5?
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like very much good conditions to play in. At least it will be dry, hopefully, though. Could be a good benefit.
Hope so.
Hopefully.
Hope so. Be frosty, though.
Yes, they should be used to that, though. It's pretty wintry here in New Zealand as well. Here we have our first one in Australia, Brumbies and the Hurricanes. This one seems to be the demise of Australian rugby. Do you agree with that? Do you see the Brumbies with the big hope, like a godly figure of Christian Lealiifano rising from the ashes? Anything that can help the Brumbies?
No, absolutely not. No chance. No, that's harsh. Let's first off, fantastic to see Christian Lealiifano back. I mean, that is a lovely story. It's great to see him overcoming his illness, to be able to get back on the pitch. That's wonderful. But let's be honest, that means he has not played with any of the other players for all season. So how can you expect him to be gelling and to be passing it to where players are going to be and all that kind of stuff? So he's not going to know what the running lines are. I know he's been in camp the whole time, but there's a difference to actually playing and throwing the ball at each other. So great. It's a fantastic story to see him coming back, and hopefully we'll see more of him next season. But let's be honest, the Brumbies are have got the fewest points out of all the teams in this in the quarterfinals. They haven't beaten the New Zealand side all season. They are unfortunately going to have fortunately for the Hurricanes, but they're going to have a very short stint in the finals and be off to Wallabies training camp for the Rugby Championship very soon.
A quick exit and a quick return to Wallabies training. The style of play that these two teams play, the Hurricanes, they like to score tries, they like to score points, and they go for the corners, things like that. The Brumbies are more forward, dominating sort of style of play. Do you think that the Brumbies can win this game, possibly playing that style of rugby, or do they have to adapt and change to really match the Hurricanes and play that attacking style that the Hurricanes do?
Look, they don't have to completely adapt. If they stick with their forwards, that's where their strengths are. They get a lot of penalties, and they, obviously penalties they can't slot over, and they put it to the corner, and they can maul over. That's their strength. It's been the Brumbies' strength for a few years now. So Stephen Larkham has showed that he's very reliant on the maul, and I think that will do a lot of that in the game. The one thing the Brumbies do that constantly drives me crazy is their box kicks. It just aggravates me watching them play because I hate box kicks more than anything I hate in rugby. If they box kick, they're going to get punished. If they box kick to one of the Barrett brothers, they're just going to be toasted in this game. So if they take out the box kicking, play with their forwards, play to their strengths, they might have a chance.
So did you watch much of the Lions games? That's the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What do you think of their box kicking?
Look, I have no idea how the Lions won with that sort of game. obviously there's been a lot of talk about Warren Ball over the last couple of months and whether it works, whether it doesn't. I don't know whether it was a fluke or whether, there's something to it. I've never been for the box kick. I don't know how you can kick the ball away to an All Black, but it worked for them. It might work for the Brumbies, but I'm still not a fan of it.
It's a different sort of game plan, isn't it? I think a Conor Murray box kick is a lot different to a Joe Powell box kick from the Brumbies. I think that's a big difference between them. So you're going big win, Canes by 25, was it?
Yep.
That's a good start. That's a good, big, nice start. I like it. That's my sort of margins.
Absolutely, but the Brumbies haven't really scored too many tries this entire season. The strongest attacking weapon is their driving maul. No pun intended to driving maul out there, who is also on the channel. But I think that the Brumbies, they're going to play as defensively as possible. I don't think they're going to try and adapt their style. As you've seen pretty much this entire season, the Brumbies have lost 8 or 9 games by less than 7 points because they're being able to keep the opponent to a scoreline that is not, out there 50 points, but at the same time, don't score points themselves. So I think it's going to be one of those games where the Hurricanes are going to win by probably 7 or 10 points. I don't think it's going to be a demolition of 50 points. Maybe it could be because the Canes and you've got Beauden Barrett and Dane Coles coming back into the squad, but I think it will be a very defensive match, and that's the way Larkham will want to play. I don't think he's going to want to be hugely attacking and take those risks. You might have to against the New Zealand sides in a quarterfinal. Maybe you do, but I'm not sure the way they want to play. Probably a bit more conservative, I reckon. Probably got the Canes by 7 or 10. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people expect. But, I mean, the Canes got to be too strong. The form coming into this game is pretty much irresistible. Beating the Crusaders without Beauden Barrett in the side, that's pretty crazy. But obviously, best 10 comes back into the squad. Dan Coles comes back in from an injury layoff as well. So the Canes on paper are just so bloody dominant. The Barrett brothers, the Savia brothers. What else can you do? It's such a scary side.
It is indeed. So Hurricanes going for the first win of the quarterfinals.
No. At this stage, stick to your strengths. Do what you can do well. Try and impose your game on the opposition is what they should be doing. Now, clearly, they don't want to be kicking anything loose. Every single kick has either got to go into the stands or has got to have one of their players underneath meeting it as it drops down and smacking the player or contesting the ball. They can't allow any kick returns or any broken play for the Hurricanes. The turnovers, they've got to be smart at the breakdown and make sure they maintain their own ball. But no, don't try and deviate too much from what you do well. By this stage, you've just got to try and impose your game plan.
Fair enough points as well. Who's your pick for this one? What do you got going for a margin between the Hurricanes and the Brumbies?
I've got the Hurricanes by 7, which I know is going to be way tight for you.
Exactly why we got you on the show. Exactly why.
So I'm looking at the Hurricanes by 7. Yeah, I'm confident they'll win, but I don't think that it will be a big scoring game. I think the Brumbies will have looked at how the Lions slowed down that second half of the third test and will do that all game long and try and make it into as much of an arm wrestle, as much of a mud fight as they can. So if you see 3 or 4 fire hydrants or fire engines spraying the pitch the day before, don't be surprised. They're going for a mud wrestle match as much as they can. It's going to be cold down in Canberra, so we could see some cold hands dropping the ball a bit, and they'll just try and keep it. They'll just try and keep it close and try and keep it as messy as possible.
And like I said, that'll play exactly into their strengths as to what they want to play as well, and away from what the Hurricanes like to do. So you're going with the away team for the opening match of quarterfinal weekend. So you got any thoughts on the return, as you spoke of Christian Lealiifano back to the Brumbies?
I just think that's an inspirational story. So if people don't know, he got stripped down with, he got diagnosed with leukemia last year. And pretty much to the day, he hasn't played rugby since. But now he's back in a Brumbies jersey for a quarterfinal. So not much of bigger of occasion to make his Super Rugby comeback. But Lealiifano's been around the squad this entire year. He's been an inspiration to all the players in the Brumbies, and that's going to be one of the biggest stories of the night, is making his comeback onto the field, onto GIL Stadium, and hopefully making that impact. You know, Lee Lofano, we don't know how match fit he is. He's been struck down with a few injuries this year as well. I can't remember if it was a hamstring or something, but his comeback got postponed a few weeks because of his injuries. It's an interesting call to bring him back into the squad for a quarterfinal when he hasn't played for 365 days in Super Rugby. But it's an inspirational story, and I'm glad that Lee Leofano's coming back and playing rugby again.
To be fair, of all Australian players, I think Lee Leofano has to be one of my favourites to watch. I remember him in the Lions tour 4 years ago in Australia. He was really a standout for the Wallabies. I think he was one of the greatest newcomers. And sadly, yeah, it's dropped off a bit, but I do hope. And from my perspective, it's not very often I hope for an Australian player to, rediscover form. But I do really enjoy watching him play. And I think the Brumbies, looking forward to next year, they need him massively to come back and get some good form like we've seen from him in the past. Second one of the weekend. Now, this one's Saturday night. I think this one's going to be huge. It's hard to say if it's going to be the match of the quarterfinals because, like you said, the Hurricanes Brumbies is probably the biggest mismatch because the next two out of the next three are probably really, really tight ones. It's Crusaders against the Highlanders. It's the undefeated Bar Ones versus the ultimate underdogs in the Highlanders. This one, I think, could go either way. It's hard to not back the Crusaders, but that hard determination of the Highlanders, could that be enough in Christchurch to get them over the line?
Well, first of all, I think the Crusaders will 100% prefer playing the Sharks this week rather than the Highlanders. Obviously, they lost the first spot last week and are the second seed now. They've got to bounce back a fair bit from the loss they got last week. Obviously, losing to the Canes is not detrimental. The Canes are a good team, but I think the Crusaders, I thought they were going to finish undefeated, but they just came up short of the final hurdle. But they still played decently well last week. The Landers have shown that they can upset teams. Obviously, in 2015, we saw them. I think they're one of the bottom seeds, and they played every playoff game away, and they won the title. So they've shown that they can. They're not chokers. They can show up on the big stage, and they've got a world-class number 9 in Aaron Smith, and he can just dictate play, and he can play at the pace he wants to play at. But the Crusaders are really clinical, really well coached. Probably the best coached team in the competition. Maybe the Lions could compete with them in that department, but I've got Crusaders by 12 in this one. So again, there's big potential for an upset in this game, but yeah, I've got Crusaders by 12. Second
match of the quarterfinal weekend. Now this one could be a cracker. Crusaders, Highlanders, the battle of the South Island, you could even call it. Who's your pick for this one? Crusaders finally losing. Is that going to hurt them?
They've lost 3 straight, haven't they, the Crusaders now? They lost to the Lions, and then they lost to the Highlanders 2 weeks ago, and then they lost to the Hurricanes. So it's a 3-match losing streak. It's crazy, absolutely crazy, from winning 14 games straight. But, I mean, the Crusaders, look at them. Up and down the park, absolutely amazing. Kieran Reid leads from the front. And, I'm pretty sure the Crusaders will want to get up for this match. But the Highlanders, they've been on some really good form at the moment. They, after a very slow start to the season, came back and started to really trouble a lot of sides. Went on a 9 or 10 game win streak and started shredding sides apart. They're scoring tries for fun. But honestly, I think the Highlanders have got a good chance this game, and I'm going to pick them by a point.
Oh, he's going for the Highlanders. Oh, that is a surprise. I did not expect that at all.
The losing streak of the Crusaders is not good for Razor Robinson, and I'm sort of got a bit of banter with a few Crusaders fans on Twitter as well. So
I was going to mention that. I was going to drop that in there, that you're putting a bit of a troll on half of those guys as well, and they're going for the Highlanders. And if they win, they'll hear about it as well. You can guarantee that.
Oh, absolutely.
Second game of the weekend. This one, everyone has really gone divided and has different thoughts about this game, but it's the Crusaders, who the Scottish Cannon, who you've already seen, is really harping on about their 3 losses in a row. They're up against the Highlanders. It's the battle of the South Island. Do you see an upset? Do you follow this trend that everyone seems to be jumping on board with?
What, an upset and see the Crusaders win? No, I'm sorry, no.
Oh, you're jumping straight on it.
Crusaders
fans are going to be absolutely jumping down our throat at this point.
No, look, it's really hard to tell, isn't it? That's what because of the Lions tour, all the New Zealand sides have only just got back together again. So there's no form, there's nothing to play off, there's nothing to pick from. We're picking off form that's over a month old, and it's all just out there. To me, and the Highlanders have got better at this than they used to be, but they are really, to me, they're really reliant on 3 or 4 of their All Blacks. So as they need Aaron Smith to be at his best, they need Sopoaga to be playing well, they need Naholo playing well, they need Ben Smith. They don't have Ben Smith. Now, he is the life. He is the cultural leader of that team, being from Southland, being the guy who does pick up on great turnovers, opportunities, playing with the other players. So no, I think that missing Ben Smith is going to be a big loss for them. I say they're not as bad as they were 2 or 3 seasons ago, where if you took out their Aaron Smith, Sopoaga, and Cruden, and Ben Smith, they lost. But they are. But I still think they're going to be overly reliant on those guys. So no, with the Crusaders, what is it? 9 starting All Blacks or something silly in their squad. I mean, pretty much the entire pack. You've got to say that that they're just going to grind it out up front, and yeah, give the backs a platform to have a bit of fun.
And just to poke you out there, Ben Smith is starting at fullback.
Is he? He's on sabbatical.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. That's after Super Rugby. He's away.
Oh, I thought he already got.
He's starting at fullback for the Highlanders. He is there, and well, you're right though. What you say, they still depend on him, regardless of whether he's there or not. Yeah. But you mentioned the key players.
No. So there you go. So I've gone Crusaders by 5 on the assumption that that Ben Smith isn't there. So what do I know? I know nothing, clearly. So there you go. I reckon Crusaders by 5. I think they grind it out. Let's be honest. They split the games, didn't they? In the regular season, and it took a Michael Hunt or Wanda drop goal to win the one for the Crusaders at home. So they've had close games already. I can't remember what the margin was for the other game, but I think actually no, Crusaders must have won both of them. What am I saying? Stupid boy, because Crusaders won all their games apart from against Hurricanes.
Yes, they did too. Of course, yes.
Sorry, but it did take a Michael Hunt Wanda goal to win one of those games. I think that was the home game. So yeah, this is going to be a close game. It's going to be within a score. I'd have thought. And this is the one with the biggest chance for an upset for me. And but I think that that Crusaders pack is just going to lay the platform for the win.
And their first meeting was in their second match, where it was 27-30. So it was really close, that one as well. Only 3 points in that too. So massive prospect for a really, really tight match. This one, where your predictions will probably be fairly right.
So I'm going for the biggest margin there, yeah.
5. That is quite big.
No, it's bigger than both. It's a bigger margin than both the 2 games so far. So it's going to be a blowout in comparison to the 2 games these guys have played each other so far this season.
Well, that's true. You're right about that. Yeah, compared to those. Do you think that Crusaders loss? This is a question I'm stealing off the driving maul, so credit to him for this one. Do you think that the Crusaders loss last weekend has hurt the New Zealand team's chances of winning the title?
Possibly. Obviously, no one really wants to go for a final at Ellis Park. The Lions play really, really well there. And obviously, my flag just fell down. Oh well. Yeah, so it has hurt it, but not. I wouldn't say greatly. The New Zealand teams are just class. All of them, probably bar the Blues. But yeah, it has hurt their chances a bit, but I wouldn't say it's they can't overcome losing the first seed.
So we're going Crusaders by 9, correct?
Crusaders by 12.
12. That's a good pick. I'd probably agree pretty much with that one as well. So you're going Hurricanes, Crusaders from the first 2 quarterfinals.
For the Crusaders losing the game?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Do you think home ground advantage is that important when it comes to Super Rugby finals?
When it comes to playing in South Africa, I think it is a definite leveller.
Right, okay. Potentially, but at the same time, the Lions have been playing absolutely amazing as well. It's so hard to say who's the better team, the Lions or the Crusaders or the Hurricanes at the moment, because the Lions have been in their own bubble, haven't played New Zealand side this year, but New Zealand hasn't played the Lions either. That's how bad the comp is. Yeah, I did steal your line, but you know that's the interesting point. The Lions have been playing so good; they played so well last year. They've got a world-class coach with Ackerman at the helm. I think they may be too strong. You know, that definitely the leveler of you know, being out of Johannesburg if the Lions go on to make the final. But I still think the New Zealand Super Rugby sides can do pretty much anything. They've got 4 chances in the finals. So, you know, the only other team outside the New Zealand sides that have got the chance of winning Super Rugby this year are the Lions. I don't give the Stormers any hope. I don't give the Brumbies any hope. And I don't give the Sharks any hope. So, you know, the Lions, regardless, should make the finals. You know, it might be a big difference where they actually play it out of South Africa. Different conditions to a freezing Christchurch in the final, isn't it?
Indeed, it'll be very, very different, I would imagine, and at home support as well. It's like a 16th man on the field. If it would be a final, it would be surely immense inside that stadium. So you're going Highlanders by a point. So you do realise you've picked the 2 away teams in the first 2 matches of the quarterfinals. That is big calls. Big calls to start off.
The South Island is not too far away. Just down there in Invercargill and down in Dunedin, not too far from Christchurch.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, you're right. It's only they're actually doing lots of buses up from Dunedin and down here in the lower part of the South Island up to the match to get as much home crowd support as they can up to Christchurch. So I'd expect plenty of rowdy Dunedin people up there for sure.
I think if you're going to plagiarise my questions, you must get them right. It was not that. I said, by the Hurricanes winning, have they ruined New Zealand's chance of winning Super Rugby, not just the Crusaders?
I tagged it to the Crusaders, so it was more appropriate to this match.
At the moment, you've got to say the Lions are the favourites to win Super Rugby. They've beaten the Sharks the last 5 games they've played. They're going to be sat at home eating the mummies' nice dinners and sleeping on their own mattresses, not getting bad backs. Yeah, the Lions are definitely favourites to win Super Rugby because of that, because they've got that home advantage. If they hadn't, then I would have put Crusaders as favourites.
So that perfectly leads into our next match of the quarter-final weekend.
But before we do that, come on, quick plug. You and I are going to be talking live straight after the Crusaders Highlanders game on YouTube, giving you our reaction. So tune in for that on the Driving Maul channel.
I did forget about that already, and we just talked about it about 5 minutes ago as well. How terrible am I?
And don't worry, he's going to put a link down below in the notes. So click on that, and you can then click on it, and it will give you a reminder, and you can then go straight after the game, come and watch us chat about it.
And I'll even put a link into his channel as well. How nice am I? Jeez, I hope there's some compensation coming my way for this. All this plugging. You know, there'll be no links in your house the way we go. So we're moving on now. This is your expertise, this one. It's a replay of what we've seen last weekend, except the Lions are now at home. They're up against the Sharks again. It's tough to see this result changing, but hand on heart, do you see any chance here for your Sharks?
Okay, this one's quite difficult for me. Last week was just horrible. It wasn't a big loss, I suppose. Well, it was 27-10, so it was a reasonably big loss. It's the latest in the trilogy of really disappointing games for me, at least this year. Look, the Sharks, I've said it a couple of times when I've been on here, the Sharks are just very inconsistent. They always have been. One week they're just outstanding, next week they just drop dead horrible. Last week, they and a lot of their plays said after the game, they couldn't hold the ball at all. So, their forwards were they would just clunk up the middle of the field. They wouldn't spread it wide. Their forwards, we just weren't going anywhere, apart from the Dupree brothers, who are our best go-forward players. When we got the ball, we either played around with it for a bit, kicked it away, or just plain lost it in the ruck because we didn't commit enough plays. And the Lions just capitalised off that. The Lions are really fast. If you turn the ball over, you have to get back really quickly because they will counter-attack, and Sharks didn't do that quick enough last week either. Just an overall really disappointing game from a Sharks fan perspective, but from a Lions or neutrals perspective, the Lions played very, very well last week. Very clinical, like they always are, very composed. Durban's not a very easy place to go in and win like that, so they did really, really well to do that. For the Sharks, they need to look back to, I think it was round 6. They nearly beat the Lions at Ellis Park, which was one of my favourite games this year. That game, the Sharks were playing really up-tempo rugby then. They were running the ball really well. So if the Sharks start Kerwin Bosch instead of Garth April, which was a huge mistake last week not to do that, they might have a chance. But I think the Lions are going to beat the Sharks and keep going through and probably go to the final now that they have the 1 seed. So I've gone Lions by 15.
Third match of the quarterfinals. Lions versus the Sharks. Now, we've seen this one last weekend. Other way around when it comes to venues, of course. Lions were too strong, as they have been all season, especially for the Sharks. But what can the Sharks offer here? Do they learn anything from that match?
Honestly, I think, the Sharks have played great all throughout the year. They've caused some big upsets. They've been winning good games as well, but I still don't think that they've got any chance against the Lions. The Lions smacked them last weekend, and I think they beat them early in the season as well, the Lions. Yep. Though again, the Lions lost is when they rested all those players when they went over to Argentina against the Loares. So
again,
Lions again, yeah. Which is, but one game. Look at that. They've won 14 games without resting those players. It was 20 players or something they rested, or I can't remember how many it was, but. They seem to be smart. They're in another quarterfinal series. Got the home final, goes in as number 1 seed. Pretty hard for the Lions to everything's going against the Sharks here, aren't they?
South Africa we're going to. Lions, Sharks, replay, swapping a home ground. Any chance of a different result?
Replay of what?
The final round robin match.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
No, this is Lions all day long. The Lions have... yeah, I'm going out big on this one. Lions by 14. This is this home win all day long. The Sharks have just fallen apart towards the end of the season. I don't know why, but they were going along okay, and they've lost like the last 2 or 3 games from memory. I should actually have stats and all this kind of stuff up. See what an amateur I am. And I say the Lions have won the last 5 games against the Sharks. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is Lions all of the way.
Do you think that the Sharks possibly have held anything back? Do they have some special secret plan that they didn't want to show too much of last weekend when they already knew that most likely they'll be playing the Lions again, given what had already happened with the Crusaders and the Hurricanes the night before? Do you think there's something that they've got up their sleeve?
Not really. I think pretty much what we've seen is really all we're going to get this season. I don't really see them having any aces up their sleeve or anything, so... obviously, injuries have played a bit. It sounds like a very cliche excuse, but injuries have been a bit annoying for us this year. Haven't been really damaging. Obviously, we've been without Pat Lambie for most of the season. I'm saying that every single season, but he got injured again. So we're entering the playoffs without a season fly half once again, just like last year. We had this conversation last year about Lambie. Starting Kerwin Bosch, he's a really, really, really good player. I think he got a 60-meter penalty last time he was in Johannesburg, so he can really kick the ball far if he needs to. He's a really composed drop kicker as well, and he's a really good counter-attacking 10. So if we start Kerwin Bosch instead of Garth April was a bit out of his element last week, so start Kerwin Bosch. I think Sharks would definitely have a better chance, but I don't really see them toppling the Lions.
I think he was the leading point scorer too, but just before he went away to the Under-20 World Cup as well. So he's definitely a big talent for the Sharks. They need to keep him firmly on the top of their list of players to nurture heading forward, especially into next year. Like you say, a player like Lambie is just so injury prone.
It's ridiculous.
A breath of the wind catches him and he breaks a leg. It's just a bit crazy how often that poor guy gets injured. Class player, but terrible luck when it comes to injuries. So what was your margin on that? Lions
by 15.
15? I thought you might have gone a bit closer on that one.
No.
But a little bit of faith in the Sharks. It's not there. It's not there. So Lions by 15. We've got the Hurricanes, Crusaders and Lions going through.
Well, anyone on any given day can beat anyone, apart from the All Blacks from time to time. I think it's pretty much playing each other before the finals a week earlier. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing for the Sharks, because the Sharks obviously got destroyed, was it, what, 27-10 or something? Can't remember the score. But, I mean, surely you've got to bring something else to the table. You can't go in with the same game plan like the week before that. The same question is, do the Lions have something up their sleeve that they haven't already? They've been playing some great attacking rugby, and I don't expect them to be any different this weekend. But I think it'll be a cracking match, but I think the Lions will cut up regardless. Sharks might have something in store, but I don't see it happening.
How much you got the Lions by?
Maybe 20 points, the same sort of scoreline as the week before.
He's going for the big win for the Lions. So finally he's picked a home team to pick up a victory in the quarterfinals.
They got things like that. Well, they got some sort of Jedi cloning program or something. They can bring out some new players. No, sorry. If you talk about some of the other teams in Super Rugby, so if you talk about something like, say, the Chiefs or the Hurricanes or whatever, then yes, you can say, right, look, they were hiding something. They can change their game plan. They can do stuff differently. We're getting down to the Sharks. They're not a good enough team to do that. Sorry, they're a decent side, but they're not a good enough side that can say, right, we have these 3 or 4 different ways of playing, and we can adapt massively and blah blah blah. No, that's just not. I just don't think the Sharks have got that within them.
So you're going for the Lions. A big win for your perspective. This is pretty much a 50-pointer by the way you pick things. One game to go from Brett's perspective. It is the Stormers up against the Chiefs. Now this one, I think, is the most difficult to pick. Yep. The others, you can say the underdog has a chance. Like the Highlanders are definitely a good enough team to win, but unlikely. This is hard because the Stormers have shown a bit of what they can do. Definitely good enough and should be good enough to win this one, especially at home. But they can also be terrible, much like their opponents, the Chiefs, who can be really good on one day and horrible on another. A team that seems to lack someone to lead them in certain areas of the field. I can't even pick a favourite for this one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, completely agree with what you just said. I really find it difficult to pick this game. Neither team has really been at their best this season. Not the Crusaders. The Chiefs have struggled against the smaller teams, especially. Stormers obviously not being a small team, but the Chiefs have probably played better against Kiwi teams than they played against South African and Australian teams this year. So Stormers on a 3-game win streak right now. They played really, really well last week. The Stormers play really well at home. They've won quite a few games at home this year. They've already beaten the Chiefs in round 7, so I think they won 34-20 was that score. So when they got their result, I actually thought the Stormers were going to be better than the Lions, obviously way back in round 7, but that didn't pan out very well. I think the key players for the Stormers are Lades and Khaleesi, especially Dylan Lades. I had quite a bit of a rant about him last time about how good he was, and he's just a really quality player, really good attacking player, sort of similar mold to Villaroo a couple of years ago. And the Chiefs haven't been at their best this season as a whole. They need guys like Damien Mckenzie to fire. Damien Mckenzie just obviously announced that he was leaving the Chiefs as well, so that might be a bit of a psychological downer, I suppose. Not that much, I would say, but to an extent. And I reckon Stormers. I would say this would probably be an upset considering it's a Kiwi team, so I said Stormers by 5.
And they've got one game left to go. Stormers versus the Chiefs. This is probably the most difficult one to pick, I think. Stormers at home. Both sides have been hot and cold. They've been good. They've been bad. Touring, the Stormers were terrible. They won't want to have to travel anywhere. They have to make the most of this quarterfinal at home as well. Do the Chiefs have a chance of repeating history here where they destroyed the Stormers in the last time they met in playoffs? Possibly. Can they do it again?
Well, of course, there's always a possibility, isn't there? But I mean, I like the Stormers this year. I really do. I think if you remember the game earlier this year where the Stormers played the Chiefs, that was an absolutely cracking game of rugby. 2 of the tries of the year were in that match, and I hope that the same is exactly the same for this match. But the Stormers, had some really good form, been playing some great rugby, and will continue to play some great rugby. But the Chiefs obviously welcome back some of their All Black stars as well. Sam Cane at the helm, and Brodie Retallick. I mean, they're big names, going to make a big impact. But how much of that You know, obviously Chiefs need to travel from New Zealand over to South Africa, so it's a 15, 16-hour flight. Be jet lagged. You know, everything seems to be against the Chiefs this weekend.
It does indeed. So one match to go in the quarterfinals. Stormers, I think this is the hardest to pick, versus the Chiefs. Big road trip here for the Chiefs. Neither side have really hammered home anything too convincing. What's your pick? Like, I can't even say does either side have a chance because it's pretty evenly matched.
Everyone's got a chance, otherwise why would we watch? And in some cases, you know, when the Sunwolves are playing, we don't watch because we don't think they've got a chance, and then they go and thrash the Blues. So, look, yes, everyone's got a chance, but so what happened? We've got two games that we can really call on, especially for this. Clearly, last season, we had this exact same setup with the Stormers saying, oh, it's not fair, we didn't get to play New Zealand sides, therefore we weren't ready for this. Jeez, come on, wake up, guys. You wouldn't have made the finals if it hadn't been for the fact you hadn't played New Zealand sides, so you were lucky. Then, and obviously they got thumped by the Chiefs. This year, they haven't got that excuse. They've played all the New Zealand sides. They should be battle ready, and they did beat the Chiefs earlier this season at home. So there is precedent that they can do this. You're right. This is one of the tight ones, a bit like the Crusaders and Highlanders. So again, I'm going for a 5-point margin on this one, which is probably going to be one of the narrower ones. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think they've been there, they've done that, they've got the players. Now, the Chiefs can go one of two ways. Either this is right. We're giving Dave Rennie a final title. We're really going to go for it, and Aaron Cruden is going to behave himself and actually go for this, not be Mr. Party Animal thinking, "Yay, I'm going for the money." So it goes one way. Either they're going to be party happy and these players aren't going to be fully into it, and they're going to miss out, or this is last chance saloon. I've got my 50. I'm a 50 cap All Black. I go win things, and it depends. Let's see how which attitude they take into this. But I think the Chiefs they've got the know-how if they want to win this game.
So, given the Stormers, the way that their fixtures list has worked, we've already mentioned and touched on this already a little bit, how they played the New Zealand sides already. But given that the easiness of their pool, that some would say the worst performing pool in the Super Rugby or conference in Super Rugby this year, do you think that's helped them or hindered them, the way they've played easy games in their home pool, but also the toughness of facing New Zealand sides?
Yeah, definitely. Last year, obviously they've had in terms of the Africa one, they've had a somewhat easy run to the playoffs, but they have had to play the New Zealand teams this year. Last year, going to the playoffs, they hadn't played any New Zealand teams, so they sort of didn't know what to expect. But you know, they've obviously played all the New Zealand teams this year and had a shocker of a tour in New Zealand as well. So they know exactly what they're in for on Saturday. But you know, the Chiefs, you know, like I said, they've beaten the Chiefs before. They're at home. Newlands is a really difficult place to play. The fans are virtually right on top of you wherever you are in the stadium. So, you know, it's a really tough place to play, and it's a tough place to win away. So, you know, I would expect the Stormers to do well. I think it'll be quite close. Both teams play a similar style of rugby. The Stormers have tried to really run the ball this year and change the way that they normally play. So, yeah, I said Stormers by 5.
Stormers by 5. That's an interesting pick. Finally, on Damien Mckenzie, he hasn't signed to go overseas just yet.
Oh, okay.
That is, some are calling a terrible rumour.
Oh, okay.
Reports coming out of the Chiefs camp at this stage, from what I've heard, only things they've ever said is he's still contracted to the Chiefs and New Zealand Rugby. So, You've brought up a bit of a touchy subject there with a few of the rugby circles. I can say about that. There's a bit of hate going on with the guys that made that claim that he's actually signed to go overseas. So, yeah, not going there at all. Hopefully he stays. The Chiefs certainly seem to think he's going to be staying, but it'll be a massive loss if he did go. I don't think a young man like that should really go overseas, but there we go. You're picking the Stormers anyway on that subject.
Well, I'm sort of thinking back to the 2015 Rugby World Cup pool where New Zealand had such an easy road after that match, or after the win against Argentina. They obviously had 3 easy matches against Tonga, Georgia, and some other team that is eluding me at the moment, Namibia.
That's right.
But they ended up coming to smack the French in that game at Millennium Stadium. So was it Millennium Stadium? I think it was. I hope so.
Yep. I think so.
So I think the same sort of goes here. I mean, I don't think it really matters because anyone, you know, the Australian Super Rugby sides were worthless this year entirely. So the matches against them are pretty stock standard easy ones. But that's what you sort of get with the Super Rugby is the format's all over the place, and I can't wait until it gets back next week. So really don't think it'll make too much of a difference, but who knows. It's the same sort of argument along the lines that the Lions haven't played New Zealand side. Does that hinder them or help them? It's hard to say until the match happens.
That's a good comparison, actually. That's quite a good comparison. You got a margin here for your winner? You going Stormers up at 2?
Oh, what did I pick in there? I can't remember what I picked in the Driving More one, but I'm just going to say either
Stormers.
Yeah,
except
probably
for
will go Storm. Probably go Storm. I'll probably go Stormers as well. I think by like I said 6 points or something. Can't remember the exact scoreline. But either way, I think both teams are going to be knocked out in the semis as well. Either way, I can't see either team getting to the Super Rugby final. I may eat my words in 2 weeks' time, but I think either team won't make it to the final.
Oh, well, I mean, they know what's coming, so that, and they've managed to beat it already. But it does mean they have been able to rest players and look after conditioning if they wanted to during the season. So it's a nice kind of mix for them, isn't it? It's funny calling this one to be the weakest pool when, if you look at the Australian Conference, they'd argue that maybe they were weaker. But I don't know which one was weaker. Who knows?
Point taken.
But yeah, you've got to say that we've known who's going to win this pool since about week 2 or 3. It's been that obvious. The Bulls have been really poor. They may be the best decorated, or the most decorated South African franchise in Super Rugby, but they really are not shown it this year. And obviously, then if you add in the Sunwolves and the Kings, that's a pretty weak pool. That's a pretty weak conference. So, but yeah, as you say, because they've actually got to have played the New Zealand sides, they should know what's coming, and it should be a nice mix of toughness and being able to rest players.
How can you say that about the Kings? Been one of the best teams in the competition this season. The Kings. I'm still on the search for a Kings jersey. Someone find me a Kings jersey. I want one. I demand one. I've even asked for Canterbury. Canterbury don't even want to send me one. That's how bad the situation is. So you're going for the Chiefs.
You don't even have a Highlanders jersey, which is your team.
Nah, go the Kings.
You don't have any jerseys. This is, God, dearie me.
It's because it's too expensive. You need to lower your prices. Then I'll get into it.
I need to lower my prices. Oh, jeez. No, we need to get Rebel Sports sponsorship.
No, Adidas, Canterbury. Come on.
Rebel Sports are the best sports in the world. I've been doing a jingle for them. Come on, there we go. That must get a sponsorship.
Yeah, get us some free jerseys. I'm down for that. I'll even wear them, and I'll leave the tag on it so it has the price and the logo of the company. It's all right. I'll do that. Anything for some jerseys. So you've got the Hurricanes, the Crusaders, the Lions, and the Stormers to take wins.
Yep.
So that would give you semi-final number 1, Hurricanes versus the Lions. Quickly, any prediction on that?
Gee,
that would be, of course, Lions at home too.
Yeah, gee, that would be a massive semi-final. I'd really enjoy that game. Lions Hurricanes, it will be close. I can tell you that. But Hurricanes, if they do win and they do go over to Joburg, it's really, really tough to play there. Hard travel for them. So going to Australia, then South Africa. You know, it's just, I don't think they would have a chance, but I reckon the Lions would top them in that one.
And it would be two similar styles of play as well. It would be a breathtaking game to watch. Like they all say, the Lions haven't played any New Zealand teams, but I rebuke that by saying the New Zealand teams have not played the Lions.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's something that a lot of people have not even thought about, that the New Zealand teams have been so fantastic this year, but they still haven't faced the best of what the overseas teams have on offer either. Yep. So it goes both ways. The Lions can say, oh, we're not prepared, but the Hurricanes, whoever goes over there, they can say the same. They're not prepared for what the Lions offer either. The second prospect semi-final would be the Crusaders, and they would be at home regardless, up against the Stormers, according to your picks. Stormers don't like travelling.
No. Yeah, they wouldn't have a chance, in my opinion, at all.
That would be a really downer for the whole competition. The Stormers have to bring a completely different game, which would lead you to your final, which no one really would want to pick this. It would be Lions at home versus the Crusaders. What everyone's thought since the start, the only difference would be venue. Do you want to have a quick word on that? We'll be talking about it more in future because hopefully we'll be doing similar things for the semis and the final as we go on. But at this point in time, what would you say?
Gee, Lions versus Crusaders. I'm just going to say I'm very biased. Being a South African rugby fan, I've been craving for a South African team that's not the Bulls to win Super Rugby. So,
poor Bulls.
Yeah, sorry Bulls. I don't have much love for you, but look, the Lions have been great over the last few years. Last 2 years especially. Lions versus Crusaders would be an absolute belter of a final. I'd really hope it would be within 5 points if that final happened. Lions and Joburg, I think I'd have to go Lions in that one. Crusaders obviously can easily win against the Lions in Joburg, but I'd say if it's in Joburg especially, I'd say Lions.
I think the Lions have just their noses in front right now, but there's still 2 weeks that can change everyone's mind as the competition goes on. But that is it from Brett. Thanks for joining me. As always, people get a hold of you on your Twitter.
Yep.
We'll leave that in the description for you if everyone wants to follow you and get involved in the banter. But thanks for coming. Any final words you want to say about the weekend coming up?
Pretty much just only go Sharks. I might sound like I'm doubting them, but I always support Sharks, so go boys. If you win it, you win it, and I'll be supporting you guys all the way.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man.
We've segued beautifully into my next part of this little discussion, because we're going to have a look at the semi-finals right now before we kick off quarterfinals, if they were to happen tomorrow. Going by your picks, you've gone with the Hurricanes to get the win, and you've gone with the Lions to pick up the win. And obviously, as we talked about before, these predetermined semi-final draws would see the Lions at home to the Hurricanes if your picks were correct. Who's your winner in that one? Would that be definitely one of the best games of the tournament so far?
Absolutely, it'd be a cracking match. But I thought I was going to come on for the semi-final preview as well.
You are. You're still coming on. But right now, we've still got a week's action to go. So you've got to quickly go through the whole thing. And then we can talk about how wrong you were next week.
I've got to go the Lions. The Lions look so good. I really, honestly, for me, for the sake of variety and the sake of South African rugby, I really hope the Lions win the comp this year. Obviously, I think it was the Bulls in 09. It was the last time the South Africans won the Super Rugby. The Lions got a really good chance this year. I'd really like to see the Lions take it to the New Zealanders and beat the defending champs who beat them in the final last year. So I would go the Lions out of hometown advantage and also for the sake of variety.
So for semi-final number 2, you went with the Highlanders, who would be away playing against the Stormers. So it's a big trip for the Highlanders over to South Africa. Who would be your pick in that one though? That would be quite an interesting one. But like you said before, there's still a lot here to go under the bridge, because the Stormers, how they play in that match, well, that's going to determine, where they go, because who knows how they're going to play. But who would you pick if they happen tomorrow?
Oh, it's a hard one.
It is
a really hard one. I'll go Highlanders, but I think the Highlanders got knocked out. I think the Highlanders got knocked out at the same stage last year to the Lions,
yes,
didn't they? The Highlanders beat the Brumbies.
Smashed.
Yeah, they beat the Brumbies, went over to the Lions in Johannesburg and got smoked in that semi-final. So maybe be the same for the Highlanders this time. They've obviously, if they win against the Crusaders, they've got to travel all the way to South Africa again. And the Stormers, that sort of contradicts what I said literally 5 minutes ago, where I said either one's not making the semis, either the Chiefs or the Stormers. But it's interesting how the semi-finals and the quarterfinals have been organised this year. I'm not sure how I feel about the reseedings or not, because it really depends. The comp is so skewed that if the Lions lose this weekend, the Crusaders lose this weekend, and the Stormers lose this weekend, the Brumbies are in the box seat for a home finals, assuming they beat the Hurricanes. So it's pretty crazy for a team could host the final, only winning 6 games in the regular season. Doesn't really make much sense to me.
So who are you putting on the line? Who's going to the final? Highlanders, Stormers.
Lions and Highlanders, because the Kiwi fans will kill me if it's not a Kiwi team in the finals.
And wouldn't that be amazing 4 New
Would be
Zealand
amazing.
teams in the quarterfinals, and the final would be Lions, possibly Lions Stormers. That is a huge possibility. What's even worse, it could be the Brumbies. But you're going Highlanders Lions. Lions will obviously be at home. Big grand final. Who's your winner? Say it
Lions,
now. See
Lions.
how wrong you are in 3 weeks.
Lions have got to win. Surely, from runners-up last season to being the #1 seed and in the Bucksy to host the home final, the Lions have just got to do it. Good for the sake of South African rugby and really improve the entire mindset of the South African fans around that.
Indeed, very well said. I couldn't agree with you more on that one as well. That is it though, from the cannon. Thank you very much for joining me. Is there anything else you would like to say about the finals at this stage before we get you back next week for the semis?
No, just looking forward to the Super Rugby finals, and I'll look forward to getting involved with your semi-final preview.
Excellent. Thank you once again for joining me, and we'll catch you next week. So what? We've got Chiefs, you're going Lions, you're going Crusaders, and you're going Hurricanes.
Yes.
I've gone backwards just to confuse you.
Yes.
So that means, come semi-final #1, we're going to predict the future here, and when you come back on next week to predict these semi-finals, we're going to pay out your choices if they're wrong. If you got them right, though, we won't mention them whatsoever. So you're going to have the Hurricanes, and you're going to have the Lions. Of course, the Lions will be at home, because they're the highest seeded team. Based on this predetermined semi-final bracketing we have now this year, we can easily determine who's going to be playing who. Lions versus the Canes. Big road trip indeed. What's your pick?
Lions. Because
Lions.
the Canes have been away from home this week. Okay, it's not too far to go to Canberra, but Canberra has got to be the weirdest capital city in the world. It's the only, must be the only one in a first world country where you can't actually fly to the capital city from outside the country, apart from Fiji. They have an international airport, and the only international flight is to Fiji. Nuts. So you have to go via Sydney, which is an extra road trip or an extra flight. It's just a hassle. So. And then I'm not sure there's direct flights into. I'm not sure how the flights go into wherever it is. Lions play. I've gone blank.
Joburg.
Actually, Joburg's big. They should be able to fly straight in there. But either way, it's a long way to go. The Lions, I say, have been at home in the nice comfy beds. They should win that one.
So that's the Lions going into the grand final. The other one would be the Crusaders up against the Chiefs. Crusaders will be back at home, or they'll still be at home following another victory. So back to the New Zealand derby. They'll guarantee at least one New Zealand side from your predictions in the grand final. Who have you got?
Again, I think the Crusaders and the Chiefs will have come all the way back again from South Africa, and they'll probably be flying into Auckland, drive down Hamilton, change over their bags, drive back up to Auckland, fly down to Christchurch. It'd take them days, years, months, weeks, whatever, to get there. So they'll get there like 2 hours before the kick-off and not have enough training and all that kind of stuff. So no, clearly they'll get back quicker than that. But yeah, the travel will take its toll, and the Crusaders will win it all.
And that's when they travel by horse and cart down the rest of the country to go to the stadium, and then they jump on the back of a pony. So that will give you the predictable Lions Crusaders final that everyone's been talking about pretty much for most of the regular season. It will be an away match in South Africa for the Crusaders in Johannesburg, like we already talked about. You've said it all a million times. Staying at home is a massive thing. Does that have any effect on your grand final versus the Crusaders?
Of course it does. What is it? Only once, or is it twice, that the overseas team has won a Super Rugby final? So yeah, everything points towards the Lions winning it.
Lions going big over the Crusaders to reclaim the glory of South African rugby. A lot of people will be happy about your thoughts on that one.
That's it.
Jeez, he's on a Lions frenzy this year. He's just really getting taken over by the Lions.
I've still got. Yep, there we go.
That's Australia, isn't it? Wasn't that 4 years ago?
That's 4 years ago.
Jeez.
I couldn't afford a jersey this time around, so there you go.
Did you see what I mean? This is what I just talked about. They're too bloody expensive. Need to get the big boys on board here for the Super Rugby preview show. Then we can make the Mitre 10 Cup preview show. Then we can make the International Window preview show / end of the year tour preview show. It could be all year round. It could be amazing.
Now what we really need is a car manufacturer. So you know what? Toyota, Hyundai, Land Rover, whoever it is, get on board. We will do a road trip around New Zealand, visiting all of the Mitre 10 Cup grounds.
That sounds fantastic.
And yeah, Cornflake and I will do you videos from the car as we're driving around and doing a road trip. So please do sponsor us.
That's the best plug ever. That's amazing. I'll be manning my phone all day for the next week, just waiting for a phone call. So, yeah, get in touch. You know where to find me. That is it, though. We've done it. We've gone through quarterfinals, semi-finals. We've made ourselves lots of money that we'll never see and decided who will win Super Rugby. I expect to see you back next week for the semi-final preview. You're going to be around for that?
Yep, I think so. Should be. And also, if it all pans out the way I think it will be, we'll obviously also be back doing a Crusaders versus somebody live post-game review. We won't do the
I'll be there for that.
Yep, won't do the Lions one though because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'll be asleep.
And I'll be going to work soon after that, so I won't be doing it either. But that'll be all good. That is us. Anything you'd like to say for these quarterfinal matches coming up this weekend before we wrap up?
Enjoy whatever rugby you're watching. It should be a blast. We've got past all the drudgery of the regular season, and let's get into the fun bit of the finals that actually really matter. Remember, next season when we get to the quarterfinals, we'll have more than half the teams will actually be in the quarterfinals.
It'll be like the NRL, where it's like harder to not make the playoffs, and or the A-League, where it's like you have to be pretty much last to not make the playoffs. It's just insane. So
Blues,
we're adopting that.
The Blues will make it next year.
Blues. Oh dear. Less said about the Blues. This is quarterfinals, playoffs. We don't talk about the Blues. We talk about winners. Only,
winners,
not the Blues.
Winners are grinners.
Winners are grinners. That's the one. You're on to it. Thank you for joining me once again, man. It's been awesome having you on. I'll leave all the descriptions, all the links in the description where you can find them, and of course the post-match, all that sort of rubbish. It is the driving maul. You can read his hat. Thank you, and we'll see you all next time. Alrighty, so that's what everyone thinks of the quarterfinals coming up this weekend. I'll leave you with my final thoughts in just a minute, but first off, let's have a bit of a recap as to where we all sit with the SuperBru predictions and fantasy team leaderboards. We haven't done these for a while just because of all the weirdness of this international period and the like, so we're going to be recapping where we sit and where everyone is going heading into these big quarterfinal matches, and we're recapping this each week as well, heading into the semi-finals and the finals. So still on the predictions, the current leader is still sitting there, Caleb 42N, doing himself great justice at the moment, sitting number 1 for another week. He's been there forever, it seems. He is only a slender lead though over Devon, who sits firmly in second, and the Stig, who sits firmly in third, up 3 spots, but he's got the wooden spoon next to his name. How does that work? How does that work? I'm not quite sure. He's up though. It is the reviewer who's picked up the yellow cap despite going down a place. Maybe they've mixed those 2 images up. Maybe they've really screwed that up. On the guest today, the driving maul, you've seen him just before. He's sitting 8th on the leaderboard so far, which is really, really good. Better than any of the rest of us. He sits inside the top 10, which is a very, very good effort. We'll move down the leaderboard, and on next cab off the rank for that one, sitting in 21st position. Not that displeased about how my season has gone, to be fair. I think we've done alright. We have some really, really good weeks. We've had some really, really average weeks. But I think my picking has got a lot better as Super Rugby has gone on over the season. We continue our way down the leaderboard into the high 20s before we find our first guest, Brett Hartley, who was on the show today. He's sitting 27th, had a good week last week, moving up a spot from 28th. And then further down in the 30s, can you believe? The Scottish Cannon 32nd, only just ticking over the 100-point mark in recent weeks as well. So 103 for him. Brett sitting up there on 112, surely unpassable now by the Cannon. And then we have my picks up there on 119.99. So pretty much 120. So I gotta say it now. I think I might have done it. I think I might have done the unthinkable and beaten 2 of the big rivals. The Scottish Cannon, of course, the big one I wanted to beat this season. So I'm pretty happy with how that's gone so far. But it is still one man clearly in front, Caleb 42N. He looks unbeatable in the predictions. Onto the fantasy team leaderboard now, and just like the predictor, there is one team who is clearly leading the way and has done for a number of weeks now as well. MFCFO's Blues charging in front with a good lead as well, about 50 odd points over the awesome transgender sloths. Solar Eclipses, those 3 guys have been 1, 2 and 3 or thereabouts all season long. River Penny Down Bother chipping in and out of their top 3 places over the season. we move our way down before we see my team. We've got, there we go, we have the yellow cap winner as well, with the Royal Anteaters charging up to 20th. But my team, the All Flakes, sit 22nd, which I'm not too displeased about. Again, sitting right about just over mid-table. I think we're around 60 members for these two competitions. So, looking all right, up inside that top half at least, going nicely. The Cannons down there also 32nd. What a coincidence, he's doing poorly there as well. So, I'm looking nice. 2,632 points surely will be enough to take out the Cannons. But, you know, fantasy leagues can change very, very quickly over week to week with certain players performing. But it's the Blues, the Sloths, and the Eclipses who lead the way in the fantasy team. So while we're here on the SuperBru website, we might as well take a look at my picks and a quick little reason with each one why I think the results will be as they are. We've seen everyone else's thoughts. We might as well close out with my own and make my picks here at the same time so you guys can all see exactly what I'm going with. First match, it is Friday night. It is GIO Stadium in Canberra. We've talked about it already with 3 guests, so you guys know what it is. Brumbies, Hurricanes. It's hard to really even look at the Brumbies. Like all these other guys have said, it's great to see Christian Lealiifano back, but coming down to class, we know the Hurricanes are a lot better side than what we've seen from the Brumbies this year. I do agree with what others have said. They need to stick their style, though. They need to try and grind this game down as much as possible and really nullify the playing style of the Hurricanes and try and drag them into their own matchup. Hopefully for the Brumbies, it'll be down and cold and a bit wet. If they can get those sort of conditions, it'll definitely help them. The Hurricanes, though, they're boosted by some returns as well. Dane Cole's definitely one of the big names that they welcome back to their team. So I think they're going to be far too strong, but the Brumbies just don't let teams get away. We heard the Cannon talking about it in his little piece about this matchup. The Brumbies don't lose by big margins that often, and I think they're going to be good enough defensively to hold the Hurricanes to a respectable scoreline. And for that reason, I'm only going to go the Hurricanes by 12 points. So we can scroll on down there. Hurricanes by 12. That is matchup number 1. Done and dusted. Canes with a lead of 12. You know what? Because I'm here and you guys are watching, we're going to lock it in. Lock it in, Eddie. That's done. So, no changes. No changes. I'm a man of my word. What goes, stays. Second game. This is a cracker, isn't it? Again, we've talked about it a lot already, so I won't go on too much. Highlanders, a really good opportunity. They could win this one. We've seen their last 2 matches with the Crusaders go down to the wire. I expect this again. There's no travel. There's no messing about. It is just 2 teams, really good teams. We've got all the big names there for the Highlanders. We've got the Smiths, you've got the Whekatals, the Sopawangas, all those. We've got the Squires, the Dixons, you know, big guys there, big game players that know how to win games. You can see their form here on the SuperBru side as well. 1 loss in their last 7 games. Insane. Insane amount of performances recently from the Highlanders and the Crusaders. That last loss, has that hurt them? The whole off-season break, has that hurt the Crusaders? That is the question, though. But I think that match last week versus the Hurricanes would have just kicked them in the butt enough to put this one away right at the death. I'm going Crusaders, only by a small margin, though. Crusaders with the win by 2. Just 2 points is all I'm going for. Lock it in, Eddie. Let's put that one away in jail. It's hard. I really want to pick the Highlanders, but I think head over heart that the Crusaders are going to get the job done. It'll be tight, it'll be close, it'll be a great spectacle, but the Crusaders just nip it at home and continue on that hope for a New Zealand team to win the title. Our third quarterfinal of the weekend. It's Ellis Park, it's Johannesburg. It's a big occasion. It's the Lions versus the Sharks. Replay last weekend. Reverse the location. We have a home game for the Lions. If anything, this is probably going to be the easiest to pick. I don't think the Sharks are really going to bring much more to the table that the Lions cannot handle. We've seen what the Lions have done all season. They've dominated, they win, and they play well. They score points. They play expansively. They play almost a New Zealand style of rugby. They score tries, and they put teams away in great fashion as well. They do it without too much worry, too much harm, and they do it in emphatic fashion as well. So they're a great team to watch. I think they'll do it easy here against the Sharks. The Sharks could mix things up. I think they definitely do need to mix things up. Points made by Brett earlier in this recording stand quite well. I think they do need to mix it up with their fly half, players outside, maybe give the Lions something that they haven't seen definitely have to try something different. But despite all that, I think the Lions will still be too good and should take it away from the Sharks. I'm actually going quite big here for this one. Driving Moore would be proud. I'm going Lions by 22 over the Sharks. Lock that one in, Sammy. It is done. Final game of the quarterfinal round. Stormers, Chiefs. Tough to pick. On any given day, either side could win this one quite easily. Sure, every team's got a chance. We've gone over that already. But this one, it's tough to pick. It's too tough to pick. We haven't really seen much of the Chiefs recently. We haven't seen much of the Stormers either, that matter. But what can they do over in South Africa? It's been a long time since they were over on their tour. Can they bring something different here on the journey? The recent form you can see there, a loss and a draw in their last 7 games. Stormers, on the other hand, have lost 3. But that is before and after international break as well. Stormers, though, big form coming into this quarterfinal with the Chiefs. 3 wins on the trot for both of these two sides. This is really hard to pick. It will be a great game to start and watch. I really wish I could and not have to work on Sunday. However, it will be highlights later on in the day for me on that one. For the Stormers, hopefully a replay of the match will be coming my way. But at home, just gives them the nudge for me. For the Stormers, I really like their team. The Chiefs can be a little bit directionless this season. And if they don't get a good start, if they lose their way early, they could fall down the mire in Stormerland. That is my prediction. It is going to be Stormers by 6. That is going to be my prediction over the Chiefs. A close one, a very hotly contested one. I can't wait for that one. There's 3, 4, you could say 4 pretty big matches. If the Sharks can bring something different, it should be big. If the Brumbies can bring something. But there's 2 real crackers in here that I expect to be very, very close. Crusaders, Highlanders, Stormers, Chiefs. But yes, indeed, that is it. That is the end of the quarterfinal preview. I hope you have all enjoyed it very, very much. It's been fun. It's been great fun bringing you all these guys' thoughts and views and opinions. Hopefully next week we can do the same. Hopefully a little bit earlier. There's a boatload of work involved in getting all this to work for these big matches. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. If you do like it, you want to see more, leave a like below. Leave your thoughts on who you think is going to win in the comments. Of course, share it with your friends who love rugby as well. Get it out there for the picks this weekend. Of course, enjoy your rugby this weekend. Hope the team goes well. Hope to see you all on Twitter as well. Cornflake Script, come have a chat when the games are on this weekend and see how we go. Have a bit of a chin wag while Super Rugby quarterfinals take action. But until next time, thank you for tuning and watching. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.